Hey guys, it's Nancy. So what I'm gonna be talking about today is my life, my struggle with anxiety and depression, and some little OCD thrown in the mix. I had a couple people request that I do it, not a lot, but you know, I figured why not. This may help me. This may, just help my progress. But it's going to be kind of all over the place because it's not some straight, narrow kind of disorder. It's been a down in the valley, jagged edges type disorder. So, this is probably going to be divided up in parts, and I'm doing this outside, and I hope people don't mind. Okay, so I got anxiety. Maybe I was born anxious. I know that sounds crazy, but maybe my nervous system was just naturally anxious. I've been told by many people it's genetic. I have a lot of people on my mom's side of the family that has anxiety. But where I'm trying to go with this is that when I was 7 years old, I experienced a trauma. And the trauma was the death of my uncle. I had never seen death. I had never been to a funeral. But that's when it started. After I seen him, and I actually went to a funeral home, that is when I started getting anxiety. And I actually remember the first night that I came. Well, I remember the first night after the funeral, or the wake is what I call it, because it wasn't the funeral, it was, the visitation. I remember going to my dad's work, and I remember sitting in the chair playing on the computer while he had to finish doing something, and I just felt like I could not breathe. It was just the most strangest thing. At the time, I didn't know what it was. And then after that, I was just never the same. My parents sent me to a psychiatrist, and he diagnosed it as separation anxiety, which I know is common among children. And it seemed that I had a problem separating from my mom. I didn't want to go to school. I didn't want to be anywhere away from my mom. And I think that stemmed from my uncle dying. Maybe I thought, that my mom was going to die. And so my dad, he literally had to pick me up and drag me, screaming and fighting every bit of him, to school. He would have to wear gloves and long sleeves to get me to school. That's how bad it was. And I remember being put on 10 milligrams at the time of Paxil. I don't remember back then if it helped or what exactly, I do remember they had a time set up for me to call my mom each day from school. And I would call crying. And I could barely focus on work at school. I do remember these things. They're just, I guess because they were horrifying things in my life, for such a young age. Well, okay, so it didn't stop there, of course. I'm 26 years old now. it continued out through elementary school. You know, I just had different phobias. I had like, this might sound crazy to some, but it was just, I guess, a phobia, OCD type thing, where in 4th grade, I could not eat with any of the other students in the class. I had to eat either alone by myself in the classroom, or I had to eat in the library. I don't know what it was. I think, in my mind, I thought that the other kids were making me sick when I ate. When I repeat that out loud, that sounds crazy. But, I mean, when you're young like that, you kind of just don't understand what's, you know, going on with you. I mean, there's no clear-cut way to say it. I mean, and then I experienced anxiety in middle school too as well. Now, my anxiety hasn't always been severe. I've had months, and I've had, you know, different times, which I'm going to get into later in my story. But I'm just doing this because I think maybe, you know, getting it out there, and, you know, maybe if somebody sees this, then it may help them in some way to know that they're not alone in what they're doing. So I'm going to go through middle school as well. This isn't saying that this was the whole time in middle school. This is just things that I'm remembering. Like, it may not have been, you know, the entire, you know, 3 years of middle school, 6th, 7th, and 8th. But I do remember where I was in class a lot of the time and just felt like I could not breathe. Like I was being smothered to death. And they actually had to come get my dad or my mom to come sit in the class. I know, this is crazy. But, I mean, in order for me to do school, I mean, I guess that's what it had to take. I mean, I don't know. And I believe I remained on the Paxil then, you know. I don't remember. It's been such a long time ago, it seems. And then, you know, okay, so I'm going to take a step back. Because telling your story is kind of hard when there's so much to it. I had another death. We had another death. My papa. My papa died in 98. So I was, hold on. I was like 10 years old or something like that. So I remember my papa dying, and that was even harder. You know, back then it seemed like everything was surrounded around death with my anxiety. Like, you know, I would think things like something might happen to my mom on the way to get me, or, you know. And then in turn, it eventually turned into, I started obsessing about everything with my health. And thinking that everything somebody had, I had. And I thought, you know, I was going to die. And, it's really hard to say. And then, after that, when I was in middle school, I was about 11, 12 years old, almost 12. My mom was going through some rough times with her health, and she was in the hospital, and I remember, like, staying with my grandparents while it was happening. And I went down there to the hospital, and she just said, I guess she didn't know how to say it, you know? But, you know, she said that she was going to have a surgery. She said that she had to have a brain surgery. And she had a brain tumor, is what they found out it was. And so that sent me into another, you know, my backbone, the main person that has held me up, gave me reassurance all throughout everything. It has a brain tumor. And all I can remember feeling at that time was tingling and just uneasiness in my body. They didn't know much about it right then and there, but at the time that, you know. Anyway, as time went on, we found out that my mom was going to have, that the tumor would come back every 4 years. I forgot what it was called. I would have to research it because I'm not completely sure. But my mom had a benign brain tumor. That means that it wasn't cancerous. It wasn't the type that would spread all over her body. It was just a growth in her brain. Okay, so life was pretty normal, you know, after she got out of brain surgery and recovered and everything. She did, you know, she quickly recovered from it. And then I remember, just like clockwork, you know, it was time again, because when you have, like, brain surgery, or, you know, any type of tumor or anything like that, you have to go for, like, an MRI every 6 months. And I always dreaded the MRI, you know. I would sit there, because I usually wouldn't go. I would just sit there and think, oh my God, please just let it not be, you know, the tumor did not come back. The tumor did not come back. And just like the doctor said, 4 years later, the tumor came back. And it's really hard to talk about because it's just hard. Okay, so the tumor came back. And then again, I was suffering with anxiety really bad. I barely wanted to leave the house. I had been through, you know, so many psychiatrists throughout, you know, my teenage years. I was 15 when, so 12, 13, 14, 4 years. I was 15 when the second brain tumor came back. So she had the surgery, and it's not like I wasn't living, you know, trying to live a normal life at the time. I had a boyfriend, I did stuff, but I always had that anxiety in the background, you know, and I was suffering greatly, and I think I was still on the Paxil, I believe so. And